It's easier to be friends with people who are roughly in the same socioeconomic class as you. I'm not classist. I want this to be clear. I know it's gonna sound classist. And in a class society, I'll talk about that stuff later, but just hear me out. As a woman, I can't tell you the amount of times that I've had to be very, very particular about how I share my lifestyle with people and who I can call a friend, because the reality is a lot of people be jealous. And I have found that it is just a lot easier in life when your friends are roughly in the same class, or at least experiencing a similar kind of lifestyle to you, because otherwise they can, it's hard not to be jealous of someone who's doing better than you, financially speaking. And there's so much more to life than money. There's more to life than looks. And I know we have all these conversations on here about pretty friends only friends with pretty people and 50-50 relationships and all of this stuff. But I just saw a video of a woman who's, I guess her husband or something, saw her apartment, and it was really nice, very nice, clean, it's a nice apartment. She has a really nice place, basically. And he was so jealous. It was extremely obvious how jealous this man was of this woman's home space. He was saying your living room is the size of my entire apartment, but he never gave compliments. It was just looking around, you could just see the envy, And I've had similar situations like that happen. You telling someone something great, something that's going good for you, and they cannot control their envy at all. And honestly, it's better, I think, if they can't control it, because then you can see it for what it really is. But the same applies to relationships and friendships. Envy is a motherfucker. It really, really is. Now, when we talk about the class aspect in a capitalist society, ideally, we wouldn't even have classes. Ideally, we would abolish the class state. However, guys, I don't know if you know this, we don't live in that world yet, We do have class distinctions. And to some extent, not all people who are in the working class have the same access to resources or the same socioeconomic status. Just because we're both workers, one person could be making more money and another person could be making less. That's just the reality. I think we have not spent enough time talking about the place or the work as a class conscious person that a lot of people aren't going to do, to not alienate higher earning people who are technically in the same class as them, if that makes sense. You could have someone who works at McDonald's, you could have someone who's a doctor. These are both working class people, but obviously the doctor is living an entirely different lifestyle than the person who works at McDonald's. And of course, it's natural that the person who works at McDonald's is going to feel some type of way about that, because unfortunately in the class society we live in, the less money you have, the worse your life is. That's the facts. That's the reality. But I do think that having that anger and that envy directed at the other worker is misplaced. You should be, once again, angry at your boss, at the company that underpays you for your labor. That is where the disconnect happens. And a lot of people simply are not going to do that work, and they're just going to wallow in anger and envy. And if I was a person who is doing relatively well, even as a worker, why then would I subject myself to potential danger at the hands of people who don't understand that I'm not really their enemy? You know what I'm saying? And how can I really have a friendship with someone who sees me as the source of all their problems? I have something that they want, or something that they feel like they deserve to have, which there's nothing wrong with them deserving to have that. And you do deserve to have that, but it's not my fault that you don't. And that is an uncomfortable truth that I feel like even leftists do not spend enough time talking about. All in all, while it's easy to lob the label of classist at people, especially when we're having conversations about like, oh, can't date a brokey or can't be friends with brokey. Like, are these statements classist? Yes. But are they rooted in an experience that just also kind of logically makes sense? Yes. Are you a brokey who can handle being friends with someone who's not broke? I mean, I understand, you guys, I've read all the text, but the part that you guys never understand is that humans are emotional creatures, fundamentally. We don't do things that are logical. We make emotional decisions. Why would anyone who is doing well for themselves, who is objectively probably living a good, fulfilling life, why would that person then subject themselves to ridicule, denigration, and potentially plotting from people who are jealous of them? Why would they then sign up to bring that person into their life? They wouldn't. And it's not to say that all poor people or all lower earning working class people are jealous by nature. They're not. I wasn't. There's plenty of people who aren't. I have other friends who are broke and are still not jealous of my successes. I've been broke. And there's plenty of people who don't fall into that category, but I don't understand what the whole purpose of trying to deny the reality that a lot of people do. That's just not going to work. It's not going to be a compatible friendship, period.